Thank you, Joe, very much. Yes, I am a candidate for the 106 House District here, but I'm not going to talk about that today. I want today to be about you, Joe, because I'm very proud to be on the ticket with a fellow Democrat that is as energetic and relentless and as hard a worker as you are. So I just have to tell you, it's been a real inspiration to be alongside of you. Even though your district is going to be 10 counties, my district is only going to be 5. I've been able to garner a lot of enthusiasm from you, and you can see from his bold presentation and his progressive ideas here today that he will make an excellent state senator for us here in northeastern Michigan. I usually, when I talk about my agenda, I've got everything related to topics that start with the letter E, so I'm going to do that with Joe as well, and I'm going to start off with talking about the environment, because if you know anything about Joe and his background, he is going to be a staunch steward of our environment, especially our freshwater resource here in northern Michigan. And so, can't say enough about how proud I am of your stance on protecting our environment, Joe, and taking care of it, and your background and expertise in that area. He's a relentless campaigner. If you've been to any of the parades where Joe has had a float and has walked, I've talked to Paul, his campaign manager, and Paul said the problem with Joe in parades is that he mingles so much with the audience, with the spectators, that the float is like a block and a half ahead of him, and we can't find him. And people want to see him, and he's not near his float. So, you know, that just tells you about how interested he is in talking to and meeting the constituents, you know, here in the 36th Senate District. And so, he's got a big task on his hand. I mean, 10 counties, when you're running against an incumbent who's from the biggest county at the whole other end of the district, from Midland County. But I've seen Joe break it down. I've seen him take it step by step, and that's what you have to do here. And that's why we have a really good chance to flip the Senate as well as the House of Representatives here in this upcoming election. So I'm very, like I said, Joe, I'm very proud to be on the ticket with you. He's also a strong supporter for the middle class, for living wages, for fair pay for a fair day's work. I think Joe realizes that the middle class is the key to bringing back our economy and turning it around. So we quit spinning our wheels. When the middle class does well and has a disposable income, then the other businesses that depend on those purchases will also do well. Instead of the last 3 years, all we've heard is trickle-down economics, which has never trickled down, at least not here in Northeast Michigan. So I'm very proud to support you, Joe, and I wish you a lot of luck. And I'm just proud to be able to work with you. So I want to thank you for running.
Thank you, sir.
Special guest this morning, General Jerry Cannon. I saw you sit down over there, sir, but Jerry's running against Dr. Dan Benishek for the 1st Congressional District, so I'd like you to have a few moments to
Thanks, Joe.
talk about higher education.
Well, we don't want to talk about politics. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and it's certainly not my position to say that this is something that should happen, but I can tell you what ought to happen, and this is exactly what we need with candidates like Joe. We need to have these ideas. We got to start thinking outside the box. Okay, if we keep doing the same thing over and over again, we're going to have the same results. And so this is a very innovative idea. It's certainly an idea that's worth discussing. Obviously, Alpena's got a great reputation in the education community. But if we don't start doing some things differently, in the community that I come from, and I talked to my father-in-law who was born and raised in Kalkaska, and he says, the greatest thing that we're known for? I go, no, sir. He says, we produce some great, young, hardworking Americans, and they leave. And they leave for about 30 or 40 years, and then they come back. And so I think what we're talking about here today is an opportunity to figure out how can we hold on to our young people and create some sustainable year-round jobs with a living wage and have them stay in our communities for those 30 and 40 years and add to the vibrancy and the fabric of the community. And so if things like this with higher education, absolutely essential. You know, in the next 25 years, 50 million new jobs are going to be created. 20,000 of them, or 20% of them are going to be requiring higher education. Doesn't mean everybody's got to go to college. Okay? It doesn't mean everybody's got to get a higher degree. Alpena Community College got a tremendous reputation for skilled trades, and they got a great partnership in their university center. And so these are the kinds of things we need to talk about, because that talent, that 20% that leaves, takes their great ideas to a Fortune 500 company, you know, and everybody does well somewhere else. We need to hold on to that talent here and get those great ideas to stay here and create jobs and economic opportunity here. So Joe, I applaud what you're doing. This is a great discussion to have. It's just like discussions about, you know, what are we going to do with the airport? What are we going to do about tourism in the northeast quadrant of the state? What are we going to do about these things? We can't just sit idly by and the train's leaving the station. We need to have a plan to figure out what it is we want to do. And we need to be thinking outside the box and coming up with ideas, throwing on the table, and sit down and have some serious discussions about what it is we can do. We need to be innovative. We need to do some different things. And this is a discussion that certainly is worth having, and it's up to this community to decide if this is something that is going to happen at all. And so I appreciate you all coming out today to talk about this with Joe, and I really want to thank Joe for taking the lead and throwing this great idea on the table. So good to see everybody. Thank you.
And I'm a senior at Central Michigan University this year. And, you know, just kind of going off what Sheila said, you know, when I met Joe at the convention about 3 weeks ago, I was just really astonished by, you know, his ideas, and I really agreed with him. And so I offered just to volunteer on this campaign, but, you know, he decided to bring me on for a little bit more of a formal role. But just for this idea that he's bringing forth for this university, I really like it. I mean, when I was choosing which school I wanted to go to, you know, one of the biggest things for me was, you know, the proximity to my hometown of Gaylord. And, you know, being a very family-oriented person, that was the most important thing. And, you know, I was involved in sports. I had a high GPA. I scored pretty well on the ACT. I could have got into most universities in the state. And I chose CMU because of its closeness, you know, and it's still an hour-and-a-half drive for me today. So, you know, bringing this university to Alpena is not only going to be a short-term investment with jobs, capital, and tourism in this region, but also a long-term investment for this region and for the state as a whole. Because obviously the best workforce is the most educated workforce. And, you know, the leadership that Joe's displaying with this idea is the kind of leadership that we need to be sending to Lansing. You know, we need our elected officials to be going out there and improving our state, trying to gather a better tomorrow for, you know, this region and for Michigan as a whole. So thank you, Joe, and thank you.